Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and this week I am the hostess of the Color Throwdown Challenge, and I will have the link to that as well as the inspiration picture, etc. on my blog post, which will be linked below the video. So I'm starting off with some My Favorite Things cement gray cardstock, and I'm using my anti-static powder tool on both pieces. And the large piece I'd cut down to 5.5 inches by about 4.5. I wanted it to be a little bit wider than my card front so I had a place to hold this because I wanted to stamp the entire background with the MFT Framework Background stamp. So I have the stamp face up on my desk here and I inked it up with VersaMark ink. And then I'm going to coat all of it with the Hero Arts Brass Embossing Powder. I was kind of hoping this embossing powder would be more, I don't know, shiny metallic. I still really like it. It kind of reminds me of Simon's Antique Gold embossing powder, kind of similar color. I still really like it though because just any of the Hero Arts powders that I've tried, I really like how they melt. They just smooth out really nicely. So I coated that entire background with that embossing powder, and then I'm melting that with my heat tool and fully enjoying the process as it melts. It never gets old, even after doing this for close to 15 years, something like that. I still love watching embossing powder melt. So set that aside, and then I took the smaller piece and same thing, used my anti-static powder tool, and I inked up an image from the Essentials by Ellen Season to Sparkle stamp set. That's kind of what inspired my entire card. And when you see the inspiration picture for the Color Throwdown Challenge, it makes more sense too. It just kind of started evolving from the inspiration picture to that set and then to start creating everything and using the brass embossing powder, etc. So after I had my background here melted, this is when I'm going to trim off that side that I was using to hold. That's all messy. So now this is an A2 size, so 4.25 by 5.5. I'm going to die cut that fractal deer image with the coordinating die. And then I had some smooth white cardstock that I'd cut down to smaller than my card front. And I used my anti-static powder tool again. And then there's this little cluster of stars and a single star image in that same Season to Sparkle set. And I was inking it up with the VersaMark ink and stamping it onto the white. And then I was coating each bit with that same embossing powder. Not melting it, just going on to each part because I can't see. When you stamp VersaMark on white cardstock, it's very difficult to see. So I would just coat it with embossing powder and then go on and stamped it just kind of along the upper right area of this white cardstock. So after I did that, I wanted to stamp and emboss my sentiment, and my initial, just knee-jerk reaction was to stamp the sentiment on black, and I was going to emboss it with white embossing powder because that's just, you do it for so long, it's just what you do. But I was like, I have all this embossing powder sitting out, why bother grabbing another one in another coffee filter? So I just used the same embossing powder on the black cardstock, and I love how it looks just, it's on gray, it's on white, and it's on black cardstock. I just love it. It all kind of ties together and yet just looks different. So I stamped a sentiment from the same set, heated it with the embossing powder, removed the anti-static powder with my Swiffer cloth because that anti-static powder really shows up on black cardstock. And then my card base is heavyweight white cardstock cut to 4.25 by 11, and I scored it at 5.5, so this will be a top folding A2 size card. Use my powder tool again, and then another sentiment from that Season to Sparkle set. So I'm going to ink that up with the VersaMark ink, stamp that onto the inside of the card, and then melt that with the same brass embossing powder. And then I wanted to kind of finish off the inside of the card, of course, so I was thinking what I would do. And there's these snowflake images from the set, but I didn't want to stamp them in gold or heat emboss them with that brass embossing powder. So instead I pulled out the Delicata Silvery Shimmer ink. This looks more gray. When you turn it in the light, you can kind of see the shimmer. I've shown in older videos, usually with the gold, the Delicata gold that I love, adding Perfect Pearls powder to it to really make it shimmer. You could totally do that with this. It would just make it really shimmer. But I wanted the more subtle look since I had all the gold embossing powder going on, so I just left it stamped as is and stamped the same snowflakes with that same silvery shimmer ink on the inside of the card. And then I trimmed down the sentiment on the cardstock and pulled out The MFT Dots and Stripes Neutrals 6x6. I've raved about this for ever since it's been released. I keep every little scrap, as you can see, especially with that diagonal black and white striped paper. I keep every little scrap of that with the pattern paper because more often than not, I can make use of that, adding little bits like I am here to my cards. I've said it a million times, if MFT would release a pack of just diagonal and horizontal and vertical black and white stripes, that would make my life. So yeah, cut down those little strips, added those to my white cardstock, and then I popped up that fractal deer with some foam tape. And then I'm just using my Xyron tape runner to apply adhesive to the back of this card front that I had heat embossed at the beginning. And I'm going to adhere that directly to my card base, so that completely covers up the card base. It's got everything lined up and stuck down really well. And then I'm going to pop my card front on with some foam tapes for that little extra bit of dimension. I was going to leave it here, but I couldn't resist adding some little bit of jewels. So I have the Studio Katia silver foil crystals, and I stopped at 3, which is a shocker, I think. Usually I add like 15 to a card front, but I only added 3. So I just added little dabs of multimedia matte adhesive and pressed those into place, and that finished off my card. So like I said at the beginning of the video, I will have a link below the video to my blog post. I'll have a link to the color challenge in there, pictures, all that kind of info will be in my blog post. So check that out below if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.